Hey everyone, welcome to my new tutorial. Today we are going to create this claptrap robot from the Borderlands game, and I really hope you will enjoy this one, and if you do, please don't forget to leave that like, and if you're new around here, hit that subscribe. So let's jump into Blender, and as you can see I have the blueprint already in place, and the link to the image is in the description, but I also prepared the Blender file with the blueprint already in, so if you're Patreon you can get it there, or you can get it as a free Gumroad download. The links are in the description, and I already scaled it so the claptrap's height is 1 meter, and we can start blocking it out right away. And let's press Shift A and create a cube. Now let's tab into the edit mode, press S to scale it down. And now let's enable X-ray view so we better see what we are doing. Press G, then Z, and just move this up right about here. And we can additionally scale it up or down to match the reference. And now we can just select all of the vertices at the bottom, press G, then Z, move this down here, and then press S to scale it as well so we get the shape. Now we can press 3 on a numpad for a side view, and we can check the proportions, and we'll need to readjust this here. So let's just drag a selection around these vertices right there, and we are selecting both of those because we have the X-ray enabled. So press G, then Y, and move it right here. Now select these two, press G, then Y. I think this will be the place because we need to move the bottom ones as well. So let's select them, press G, then Y, and move it right there. Let's now tab out of the edit mode. If you just started Blender and you have trouble following all the YouTube tutorials, make sure to check out my courses as well, where in addition to the step-by-step instructions, you also get full in-depth explanation of all the tools and all the steps, and you get to learn everything from simple low poly design all the way to full character illustration, textured environments, even a little bit of sculpting and hard surface modeling. So if you're interested, please check out the link in the description. And I have some references here. You can just Google these images, and there are certain differences. There are multiple versions, and there are some versions from other artists. So this is just to get roughly things right. We will do a very simplified version of this anyway, and there are certain cutouts that we need to make. For example, here in the front, then we have the space next to the wheel and in the front. So let's take care of those, and I think the easiest way would be to use booleans here. So here in Blender, let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad, and let's press Shift A and let's add another cube. Right here, tab into the edit mode and scale it down. Now this might be a little bit harder to see, but you can clearly see the cutout for the wheel right here. So we can just press G, then Z, and move this up here. And if you want to better see the blueprint, you can tab out, expand the reference, select one of these, and then increase the opacity here, so it's better visible from the front, for example. And we can add some from the side as well. Now let me collapse this, click the collection here so new objects are created there, and let's just select this again, and let's try to scale it a little bit better, like this. And now let's look from the side here, press S, then Y, and we'll just scale this so it covers the whole thing. And now we can tab out, select the main body object, go into the modifiers and search for Boolean. And we can pick this object, and we already have it as a difference, so we can just go ahead and apply this. I don't want to keep this non-destructive, so we can just apply this and then select this cube and repurpose it. So let's look from the side here, tab into the edit mode, and then press S, then Y, and scale it on Y-axis, press G, then Y, and move it somewhere here. So this is the space we want to cut out, so press G, then Z, move it up here. And I think it covers the whole object quite nicely. So we can now press S, then X, and scale it out so it covers it from the sides as well. And now do the same thing. So tab out, select the main body, and let's add Boolean modifier. And we'll pick this object and apply this. Now let's just delete this. And right now this is a little bit messy. We'll need to clean this up, but let's do the cutout at the top. So let's look from the front. Let's press Shift A and let's create another cube here. Tab into the edit mode and let's scale this down. Press G, then Z, and move this up here. And then S, then X to scale it right about here. Select the bottom vertices, press G, then Z, and move them down here. And now select both of those, press S, then X, and scale this down right about here. Now let's look from the side by pressing 3 on a numpad. Select the whole thing by pressing A and then G then Y to move it right here. And now here we'll need to decide on the depth of that cutout, and we cannot see here from the reference, so we'll need to eyeball it. But so it looks like it's about like 5 to 8 centimeters here near the top, and then it goes more shallow towards the bottom with the cutout for, you know, the lens. So we can move this a little bit more towards the front and then select these vertices, press G then Y and move them somewhere here. And I think this will be enough. So again, we'll select the body, create the boolean, and then use this object and apply. Now let's delete this and disable X-ray view. And here's what we got. And we can additionally modify this. If you tab into the edit mode, you can press 3 for face select, select this face and press G then Y to move it back and forth. If this is too shallow or if you missed the angle, you can also select just the edge and slide it back and forth. But now let's clean this up a little bit. So let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad, enable X-ray view. And first of all, let's cut the whole thing in half. So press K for a knife tool and click here near the middle, not all the way. And now hit A for the angle snap and C to cut through. Click with the left mouse button and then confirm with enter to create the cut. And now press 1 for vertex select, select all of these vertices on the other side, press X and delete them. And let's now go ahead and add a mirror modifier and let's enable clipping. And now we can select all of this, press G then X and slide it towards the middle. So we can now work only on this part. Let's press K for a knife tool again, snap it right here to this middle vert. And let's hit C and A for that cut through an angle. Let's click and confirm. And now this should create this edge loop all around, but it connected these two vertices as well, which we don't want. So press 2, select this edge and press Ctrl X to dissolve it. And now we'll do the same thing down near the bottom. Let's look from the side by pressing 3 on a numpad, press K, and again click here to snap and then C and A and just do this cut. And let's do this one on the other side. I will need to move a little bit faster because this would take a lot of time, but anytime I'm doing something new, I will tell you the shortcuts. So let's figure out how to simplify this even more. And I will leave some of the angles in place. We'll mostly use bevel modifier here anyway, without any subdivision. So let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad, press K again for a knife tool. Let's snap it right here. And we can just do cut like this along that side slope right there. Press C for cut through, confirm and hit enter. And now disable the X-ray view. Let's rotate this and we'll need some additional geometry down here. Let's select these two edges right here, right click and subdivide. And we can select this one, press G twice and slide it towards the front right here. And let's do the same thing here. So select these two, right click and subdivide and slide this back. Okay, and now we can press 1 for vertex select, select this one, press X and just delete it, and delete this one in the middle as well. And now we'll just create some new geometry there. So press 2 for edge select, select these two, press F to fill, do the same thing on the other side. And now just click here and press F and that will close it for you. So just select the edge, press F and that will fill it towards the middle. And now we have that cutout for the wheel and this should look nicely. So let's tab out and let's press Shift A and we'll add the wheel. So add mesh and we'll add a circle. Now let's modify this to 16 vertices. Tab into the edit mode and press S to scale it down. And let's press R, then Y and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Let's confirm. And now tab out of the edit mode because I want the origin to move and press G then Z and move this up until the origin point is right here in the middle. And then we can tab back in and press S to adjust the scale. Something like this because we will add some thread. And let's look from the front and press G then X and move this to the side. And now we can add the mirror modifier here as well. Enable clipping and press 1 for vertex select, press E then X and just extrude it towards the inside like this, and then alt click this loop, press F to fill. And we have the wheel block out with the mirror modifier, and I think this will work nicely. So let's look from the front and we'll block out some more of the parts. Here you can see those shoulder pads are like connected to the hands, but here I don't see anything like this. So I'll probably follow this more simple example. And there's also some inset for this, so let's create that. I will tab out, select the body, tab in, let's look from the side and press K for a knife tool, click here, and again CA to enable cut through, and confirm and enter, and let's do the same thing here. So we create some new geometry, and now let's press Ctrl R and create a loop cut right there. So now if we look from the side and enable X-ray, additionally we can press Ctrl R to create a loop cut right there because it goes a little bit deeper. And now we can just press 3 for face select, select these two, and press E then X and extrude this inside like this. Now let's tab out and let's figure out the position for the lens now. Let's look from the front by pressing 1 on the numpad, and to make this precise I will create a circle down at the bottom. So let's press Shift A, create a circle, and again 16 will be enough, and just press G then Z and move this up until the origin point is right here in the middle of this circle. And now we can tab in and press S to scale this down until is the correct size, and then we can press R, then X and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Let's confirm, press 1 for vertex select, let's look from the side, and we'll just press G then Y and slide it towards the front here, and then press E and Y to extrude on Y axis, and then press F to fill, so we have the approximate position for this, and then we can readjust the shape and the surroundings. Now we are in the blockout stage. So let's tab out and let's look from the side again by pressing 3 on a numpad, and here we can see the circle where the hands are connected, so we can hold Shift, right click there and press Shift A and create our circle, tab into the edit mode and press S to scale it down like this, and then R, Y and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Let's look from the front, and we can press E then X to extrude this, and F to fill, and now we'll just select all of these on the other side, press G then X and move it here, so it kind of goes from within the body. And now we can tab out and let's go ahead and enable face orientation feature here, and if you disable X-ray view you will see if you have some normals flipped, and I can clearly see that these two we need to fix. So let's just select both, tab into the edit mode, press A and Shift N to recalculate normals, and now we can tab out and let's block out the hands here. So let's look from the front, and now with this object selected, hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it, and let's look from the front by pressing 1 on a numpad. Let's press Shift A and create a cylinder. Let's do something like 12 vertices, tab into the edit mode and press S to scale this down, and again we can enable X-ray view and do something like this here. Now tab out and we'll move this to the side, so press G then X and move it right here, and we're looking at the origin point, and I want this in the middle of the arm so it can rotate around it. And now just press R and rotate so it looks like the correct angle, and now we can tab into the edit mode, and since we rotated it in the object mode we can just select all of these vertices, press G then Z twice and slide it like this. So let's do something like this up until here, right towards the middle, and if the angle is wrong you can tab out and readjust the angle like this, but it should look like that. And now we can tab back in, and with this loop selected, hold Shift S and cursor to select it, and now we can tab out and let's press Shift A, and I will add the round cube here. If you don't have it, just go edit, preferences, get extensions and search for extra mesh objects, hit install button, and you will have that option right here, and then you can choose the quad sphere template, reduce to something like 4, tab into the edit mode and just scale it down. And now let's tab out, let's select this one here, let's press Shift D and right click to release in place, and now with the cursor still here, hold Shift S and snap selection to cursor, so they will just jump there, tab into the edit mode, and we can now select all, press G then Z twice and slide it a little bit like this, and then make it smaller. Press G then Z twice again to readjust, but as you can see the origin point stayed here, so we'll have no trouble bending this around this ball joint. And now select these vertices on the side, press G then Z twice and slide them towards the hand. And now let's hold Shift S and snap cursor to select it again. Let's tab out and let's press Shift A and we'll create another cylinder right here. Tab into the edit mode, press S to scale it down, and now I will rotate it around X-axis, so press R then X and 90 to rotate 90 degrees. Let's confirm and let's scale it down even more. like this. Let's look from the side and press S then Y and scale it like this. Okay, let's look from the front, tab out, and let's press G and move it in the object mode right here. And now press Alt D and create another one here. Okay, and now let's select this one, hold Shift S, snap cursor to select it, and let's press Shift A and we'll add a plane. And now tab into the edit mode, scale this down, and just press G then X and move it to the side right about here. Let's look from the top, press S then Y, scale it like this, and then select the front and scale it down. And again, this will be very simplified version of the robot, but I think this will work nicely. So press A and E to extrude, then A again and press G then Z to move this slightly up. And now we can tab out and press R to rotate, and you can see how this will nicely rotate around this joint. And now press Alt D, move this somewhere here, select this joint, hold Shift S, snap cursor to select it, select the bottom part, and Shift S and selection to cursor, and R to readjust. So now we have something like this, and I think this will be more than enough. And now let's mirror everything here, so we can disable the X-ray view. And again, we can see some flip normals. So tab into the edit mode and Shift N to recalculate, tab out. And now select this one here, and let's add the mirror modifier. And we can use the eyedropper tool to select the body, and you can see the object on the other side. Now we are using the body as a center for mirroring, but now we can select all of this, hold Shift, select more of these parts with this one as last, and now just click here and copy to select it, and that will duplicate the mirror modifier for you. And this is basically the blockout for the robot ready, and now we can just jump in and increase the level of detail for this. So first thing I want to do is to take care of the lens, so let's select it, and if you check the reference, there is a little bit of a ring around it, and then it just extrudes towards the front. So let's tab into the edit mode, and I will press Ctrl R and slide this right about here. Let's enable X-ray view, and now we can press Ctrl R again, create a new loop cut right here, press S to scale it, and let's look from the side, and there's a little bit of that slope, so we can hit Ctrl Alt Shift and S and just slide it like this to match the angle, and press G then Y and move it back. So we'll get something like this here. Now let's toggle the X-ray, and we can press 3 for face select, select this face right here, and press G then Y and move it towards the front like this, and then press I to inset, E to extrude inside, and then S to scale. So there's a little bit of a slope there as well, maybe move it around a little bit, then press I and G then Y to move it towards the front, and press Ctrl B to bevel a little bit so it looks curved. Now let's take care of this top part right here, so I will select the main body, tab into the edit mode, press 2 for edge select, alt click this loop, hold Alt and Shift, and let's just add to the selection and press Ctrl B to bevel like this. Okay, don't go too close to these edges, then it would clamp your bevel modifier. Let's now tab out and let's take care of some of the details for the wheel. So we can select it, hold Shift S, snap cursor to select it, let's press Shift A, and we'll add a single vert that should be now available if you enable the extra objects. So let's add single vert, let's look from the front, make sure you are in the vertex select, press G, then X, and just move it right here. And we can enable X-ray view, so we better see what's happening there. And now just press E, then X, extrude it right about here, and then E and Z to extrude this up somewhere here. Let's look from the side by pressing 3 on a numpad. And what I'm trying to do is this part right here with the shock absorber. So I think something like this should be fine. And now let's select this vertex, press Ctrl Shift B to create the vertex bevel like this. And now with these two selected, let's press Ctrl Shift B again, and let's do just a small vertex bevel like this. So there's some corners. And now we can select this vertex, press Shift D, then Z, move this down, press E then Z and extrude, and you will see why just in a second. Okay, and then Shift D again, Z to move this down, and then extrude once again all the way up until it disappears up there. And now I'll tab out, right click, and convert this to curve. And in the curve settings geometry section, I will reduce the resolution to 2 and just expand this. And now tab into the edit mode, and you can see now these are control points, and we can just select one of them, hit L to select linked, and then press Alt S to increase or decrease the size. So we can select this one here, hit L and press Alt S to make this smaller. And now just by few clicks we created this whole thing, and we can now right click, convert this back to mesh. Let's disable X-ray view, and we can add some faces. So tab into the edit mode, alt click this loop and press F to fill, and right here as well. And this is now, I think, enough. And now we can select this, hit L and press S to make it larger, and press G then Z and move this up a little bit, and alt click this loop and Ctrl B to bevel to create a little bit of that slope. And I think this will be enough, so let's tab out and let's just go ahead and let's add that mirror modifier here again, so we have another detail. And now we can select the wheel, tab into the edit mode and press Ctrl B to create a little bit of a bevel here as well, and increase number of cuts with the mouse wheel. Okay. And now let's hit slash on a numpad for a local view. Let's press 3 for face select. Select these two faces right here. Press Shift D to duplicate and right click to release in place. Press P and separate the selection. Tab out, select that new object right here. And let's tab in, press Ctrl R to create a cut here in the middle, right click to release, and press Ctrl B to bevel and decrease the number of cuts with the mouse wheel to something like this. And now let's look from the top by pressing 7 on a numpad, press 1 for vertex select. Select this vertex, press G twice to slide it towards the front. This one as well, we'll need to eyeball this. And now these will slide back, so it kind of goes approximately in a straight line. And then we can press 3 for face select, select these two, and press E to extrude. Now press 2 for edge select, select the one in the middle, press G then Z and move this higher up. And now this one, press G twice to slide it, and then G twice again to slide it back. So we'll have something like this here. And now we can tab out and let's add array modifier. And let's disable relative offset and we'll enable object offset. So let's press Shift A, we'll add an empty. Select this again and we'll pick this as the offset object. And now we can select the empty, press R then X and just start rotating it until it connects here, and we can readjust this. So press N for the side panel, and here you can see we'll need 22.5 degrees of rotation to make this perfect. And then if we select this, we can enable merge on the modifier and just increase the count all around like this. And now we can readjust this and select these vertices one by one and slide them around so the tire thread looks a little bit better. Something like this will be nice, I think. So now we can tab out and let's just select the main wheel, tab into the edit mode, and now press 3 for face select, alt click this loop, press X and delete vertices. We don't need those anymore because we have this covered. So we can now tab out and just continue detailing this part. So tab into the edit mode, and now we can hit slash to exit the local view, hit 3 for a side view, enable X-ray view, select this face on the side with the face select active, and now press I to inset this around here, and then press E to extrude and S to scale a little bit, extrude again and scale. Okay, disable X-ray view, and I think this will work nicely as a wheel here. So tab out and we can move on, add more details elsewhere. So let's select this part right here, tab into the edit mode, select this face, press Ctrl B to bevel, and now we can tab out, select this arm. Let's look from the front, tab into the edit mode, enable X-ray view, and we can now press Ctrl R, create a loop cut right here, then one more right next to it, and then select this and press G then Z twice and just slide it back here up until here. And now we can press I for inset and then E to extrude and inset again and extrude. So now we'll get some more detail in there, and press 3 for face select, alt click this loop, alt E and extrude faces along normals. And now let's do something interesting here as well. So tab out, select this part, tab in, and again we'll press Ctrl R for a loop cut, add another one here, and maybe slide this thing back by pressing G and then Z twice, I to inset, and E to extrude, then E to extrude again, and S to scale, and again E to extrude like this. Now again 3 for face select, alt click this and alt E and extrude along normals here. Okay. And I think this will be enough detail for very stylized version of the claptrap. So let's disable X-ray view. And I really like this so far. Now there are some more parts like this, so we're gonna replicate them with geometry. Now all of the other parts we'll just draw in with the grease pencil. And I really like these shoulders, so I want to add them as well. So first of all, let's select the model, tab into the edit mode, press 2 for edge select and select this edge. Click here, hold Shift S, snap cursor there, tab out, let's press Shift A and we'll add a plane. Tab into the edit mode and press S to scale this down right about here, and then press G, then X and move this to the side until it almost connects there. And now we can select this and slide it a little bit out, and now press A and extrude, and A again and Shift N to recalculate because you saw it turned red. And now we can look from the front, tab out and press R to rotate this towards the hand. Let's add the mirror modifier and use the eyedropper tool on the body here to mirror it on the other side. Okay, I really like this. Now I think here we might just move this up like this, so it adds a little bit more detail, more interest there. And now let's reuse some geometry. So I will select these two edges in the front, press Shift D, right click to release, then P and separate, tab out, select the new object, tab back in, and it's the same method I used before. So we can now press A to select all, press 1 for vertex select, and just press E, then Y and extrude this out. And let's look from the side here and toggle X-ray, but here it's a little bit more outwards and it's a little bit sloped, and I really like this. So press Ctrl Shift Alt and S and just slope it a little bit more. And now we can select these vertices and press G and slide them back here like this. And now let's tab out and let's add solidify modifier. And this is all wrong, so let's toggle off the X-ray and we can see we have some flip normals there. So tab out, press A and Shift N to recalculate, so they're all going in the same direction. Tab out, and now we can adjust this and enable even thickness and create something like this here. Okay, I really like this. And let's do the same thing on the side here. So let's select this, tab into the edit mode, and again we'll just select this vertex, hold Shift, select these other ones, Shift D, right click to release and P and separate the selection, tab out, select the new object, and now we'll just extrude this to the side. So press E then X, go like this, and now A and Shift N to recalculate normals again. And again I want to create a little bit of a slope there, so let's look from the side and we can toggle the X-ray, select these and press G and just move them a little bit downwards, and these like that. Okay, I really like that shape, so let's tab out, toggle X-ray, and I will add that solidify modifier here again and increase the thickness and enable even thickness. Now before we do anything, let's parent everything. So we have the wheel right here. So now let's select this with the side of the wheel, hold Shift, select the empty, press Ctrl P and parent to object. So now if we select the empty, we can just rotate the whole wheel. And now we'll select this, hold Shift, select the other objects that are attached to the body alongside with this and the shoulders. Hold Shift, select the body, press Ctrl P and parent to object. And now the hand will be a little bit different story because we'll need to select these two, press Ctrl P and parent, do the same thing with the other. And now these two, hold Shift, select this part of the hand, parent it. So now this can be moved like that. And now select the joint, hold Shift, select the arm, press Ctrl P, parent. And now this part to the arm, Ctrl P and parent. So now the whole thing can be moved and we can do, you know, some fun poses. Now, of course, all of the movements here will be mirrored, but I think this will be okay for our purposes here. So we can do some fun movements like this, and I really like this pose. I think it's a classic claptrap. Finally, let's select the body, and we have some more parenting to do. So select the wheel and select the arm right here. Now select the body, Ctrl P and parent to object. So only now we are able to move the whole claptrap body. And since we left the origin down there, we can easily just tilt him and it will look like he's, you know, leaning on the wheel. So that's exactly what we want here. And now let's make this a little bit smoother. So with the body selected, let's add some bevel modifier and let's increase number of segments. And in the geometry section, switch this to arc, so we have a little bit nicer geometry near these joints, though it might be a little bit messy somewhere, so we'll need to cut through some of the geometry you can see here. So let's look from the front, enable X-ray view, press K, and we'll do another cut like before. So press C, A for cut through an angle, confirm and enter. So now we have these cuts right there, and if you tab out and disable the X-ray, you can now see this is much cleaner with the bevel modifier, and I really like this. So we can just right click, shade smooth, and to have some nicer shading we can enable harden normals, and I think this is good enough to move on. So let's select these two, hold shift, select this one, and we'll just transfer the bevel modifier there. And now with these two selected, we can just enable the amount of the bevel, make them a little bit sharper like this. By the way, I was holding Alt key to adjust the amount for both selected objects, but now here's a little bit of a gap, so we'll just go in, tab into the edit mode, and just press G then Y and move this inside a little bit and a little bit higher up, and do the same thing here. Okay, I like this. So now we can do the same thing here, and let's basically add that bevel modifier to every one of these objects, and then we can adjust these individually as we see fit. So let's select everything else except the ball joint that doesn't need any bevel modifier, and let's include the wheel as well here, including the side of the wheel. And now let's select one of these as last, and let's copy to select. So now we have bevel modifier on all objects. We can right click and shade smooth, and now select the ball joint, right click and shade smooth as well. We have this result. Now let's adjust this a little bit, because the bevel modifier is catching some of the angles I don't want to see there. So let's increase the angle to 45 degrees on the hands and here as well, and on these cylinders. So if you have two selected, you can just hit 45 and then hold Alt key and enter, and that will apply your new setting on both objects. And I can see the wheel is a little bit messy, so let's fix that. We can add some more geometry there. So let's select the wheel. With the side, hit slash on a numpad. For local view, now select only the wheel, tab into the edit mode, and we can enable X-ray and just select this side right here. We can look from the side here and just press E and extrude it like this. It should connect and merge nicely. We can even scale this inside a little bit, so that will create a little bit of that side there for a little bit of a breathing room for the bevel modifier. Now it would be possible to connect this to the wheel, but here we have less geometry. We don't have anywhere to connect these inner vertices, and I don't want to make this too complex, so we'll just cover this. We'll tab into the edit mode, alt click this loop and press E then X and slide it like this. So there will be like a little bit of a gap, and I think it even might look quite cool that there's, you know, like a seam or something. So I will just leave it extruded like this. And with that little bit of an added geometry, I think the wheel looks just fine. So let's hit slash to exit the local view, and I think the modeling here is done. The claptrap can be moved. Here we'll adjust a little bit of that angle again. So what we can do is do 25 degrees and make it a little bit sharper. So tab into the edit mode, alt click here, press G then Y, and we'll just move it back until we hit all of these like that, and we have some bevel modifier happening there. Now let's create some materials. So let's hit N to collapse the side panel, and let's expand some shader editor window right there. And let's select the body, create a new material there. Let's call this body. And I want to make this procedural, so if we check the reference, you can see there's some white stripe here in the middle, there's some grunge, some dirt happening there, and then some outlines and some details. So the outlines and details will take care of this with the grease pencil, but the grunge and the stripe will need to be procedural, and the stripe is around the height of the lens. So let's figure that out. I'll press Shift A and let's do texture and gradient texture. And now let's press Shift A and we'll do converter and color ramp and plug this right here. And now let's preview this connecting to the surface, and let's hit Z and go material preview. So now this is what we have here. So obviously we'll need to rotate this, so drag this up and do texture coordinate for the object, and let's press Shift A and do vector and mapping and plug it right here. And now we're able to rotate this, so let's do 90 degrees for y-axis, and then we can move this with the x-axis like this, so it will be like minus 0.7 or something like that. And now we can readjust how the gradient looks like, so we can find those breakpoints right here and create new ones, of course. So this way we're able to define multiple stops, multiple color stops. And do something like this. Let's move this lower. Then we can compress this like this. And now let's adjust the color, so this should be white all the way, same as this one right here. And we can adjust the stops. Okay, make it a little bit more compressed like this. And now we'll just move all of this to the side. Let's press Shift A and we'll do color, mix color node right here, but plug this into the factor. And the first will be the white stripe, and the second color will be the yellow color that the claptrap has, like this. Now we can just plug this into the base color and preview the material. Let's increase the roughness here. So this is what we have here. Now I want to introduce some grunge, so let's press Shift A and we'll add a noise. Now let's plug in the same object coordinates right here, and let's press Shift A and do another ramp. Let's preview this right to the surface input like this, and let's compress this a little bit so we better see. And now let's increase the detail all the way, a little bit of roughness, and let's play with the scale, do something like this. Maybe this is too detailed, so let's reduce the roughness a little bit. And now we can press Shift A, add another mix color node, plug this into the B color and preview the material again. Now we'll need to change the mix into multiply here and increase the factor all the way. And now we can play with this color, so we can change the black color, make it a little bit brighter and add a little bit of a different color there. And of course we can play with the factor so it blends a little bit better here. So I think something like this will be just fine, a little bit of a dirt. And now let's create some edge masks. So let's press Shift A and we'll do ambient occlusion node. Let's switch to inside and only local, and let's add converter and some matte node. Let's press Shift D to duplicate this, and here we'll set this to 1 and subtract the value of the ambient occlusion, and just plug this here and compare if it's greater than the threshold we are interested in. And let's just plug it here to preview, and we'll reduce the distance here of the ambient occlusion and play with the threshold so we can find some nice compromise and have some edge mask. And now we'll press Shift A and add another mix color node, plug it here, and now use this mask as a factor and just preview the whole material again. But I want to also drive the metallic value with this and also the roughness, but the roughness will need to be inverted. So let's press Shift A, color and invert this. And now we can reduce the strength of this effect. And we have now some nice procedural material there. And I think the grunge is a little bit too strong. And then we can adjust this color of the metal like this. Now let's create some material for these other parts, and if we check this, this is just some gray color, so this will be very simple. Let's just create a new material. Let's make it darker, a little bit of a bluish tone, and let's increase the roughness tiny bit, not too much, and then just hold Shift, select all of these parts right here with the lens as well, and these wheel sides, And let's hold shift, select this as last, and then Ctrl L and link materials so it's everywhere. And now we can select the wheel. Let's create a darker color right here with some roughness. And the side of the wheel, let's do the same material there. But here, let's tab into the edit mode. Let's create a new material slot. Press 3 for face select, select this face. Alt and shift and select this part as well. Select the new material slot and hit assign. And now we'll just switch this to that gray color. I think this will work nicely here. And the front lens here will do the same thing. So create the new material slot, select this face inside, hit Ctrl and plus on a numpad to expand, and create the new material slot and hit assign. And now we'll create a new material there, switch this to emission and change the color there like this. Let's tab out. And yeah, I really like this. Maybe this is a little bit too detailed for what I'm trying to do here. Let's reduce the roughness here on that dirt and let's compress this even more. Okay, so it's a little bit, you know, more cartoonish there. Okay, and let's try to make this white part less dirty. Okay, works nicely, I think. And now on this other material, I want to add some of the edge mask as well, so we have some variation. So let's just copy these 3 nodes. Let's press Ctrl C, and now let's just paste them into this material. And let's preview it. And here we'll need to use different values for the distance. This will need to be much lower and a little bit higher threshold like this. And now we can press Shift A, add that mix color, press Ctrl C, hovering over this color here, and let's make sure this is plugged into the mix. Press Ctrl V there, here as well, and let's just make this brighter like this. And now we'll just connect it, and this is looking much better. Now finally, let's play with some grease pencil here. I will press Shift A and let's add grease pencil and blank object right here. And let's go to the modifiers and let's add modifier and let's do generate and let's do line art. And I want to move the grease pencil outside of that collection, and we'll just use the collection here as the reference and use the new layer and blank material. And let's now press Shift A and let's add a camera. Hold Ctrl Alt and hit 0 on a numpad to move the camera here, and now you can see the line art will start working with the camera. And to easily move the camera around, we can hit N, and the view settings enable camera to view. And now if you use your viewport controls, you can reposition your camera, because if you don't and you look from this way, you can see the line art is moved because it will be always rendered in relation to the camera. So now you can do rotation like this with the camera. But let's find some nice angle like this. Okay, let's disable this. Press N for the side panel. And now I will move the hands back where I had them before my PC crashed. And now with the grease pencil object, we can go ahead and change the line thickness here. Let's try 10, maybe even less, like 8. Okay. Let's do some rotation so he looks into the camera. Okay, maybe even less. Let's do like 5. Okay, I like this. Now I will select the body, press Alt R to reset the location because I want to do something else here. Let's press Shift A and let's add another empty grease pencil. Let's move it right here so it's next to each other. We can go into the draw mode. And we can change the placement to surface and adjust the offset, something like 0.001. We'll see how that works. Let me draw something. So as you can see, we'll be drawing some grease pencil strokes on our objects. So now I'll hit Ctrl Z to go back. And now let's disable the main grease pencil so it doesn't get in the way. And here we can press F to modify the size of the stroke. So this is still too thick. Okay, maybe something like this. Okay. And I want the full strength, full black color here. And yeah, now basically you can just go ahead and start drawing some details on this. But here I will need to see this. Let's look on the camera so we see the placement. And yeah, we can do some nice strokes like this. If you hold shift, you can smooth out your lines. Then you can do some bolts and details like this, and some other details. So basically you just leave out hands because those you will need to move around. And I'll probably use my tablet here and time-lapse through this. So I will see you on the other side. Go wild, you know, draw in something, draw in some of these details. And now when you're finished with the details, you can just exit the draw mode and you have your grease pencil object right there. And you can hold shift, select the main body, press Ctrl P and parent. So now if you move the robot, the grease pencil object will move with it. And if you look through the camera, the outline is moving as well. So now you can just reposition this and you can add some background. So let's place down some plane, make it really large, like this, and let's add some color, make it darker, okay, like this. And now we can switch to the rendered view. Let's add some lights, let's add an area light, and let's increase the intensity quite a bit here. Okay, and now we can change the world color a little bit to give this a little bit of an ambience. Okay, and now let's play with the color of the light, and we can move this around as well. Okay, and let's go ahead and enable ray tracing so we get some better ambient occlusion, and maybe another light in the back here with a little bit of a blue tone. I think this will look nicely. And maybe let's color this towards the blue as well. Okay, looks nice. So that's a quick claptrap robot here in Blender, and I really hope you enjoyed this one. And again, if you did, please leave that like, and if you're new around here and want to learn more like this in the future, hit that subscribe. Thank you all for watching and have a wonderful day.